Welcome to another episode of The Neophytes, a special series within the Never Close the Inquiry podcast, wherein my good friend Thomas Maybe and I sit down and talk about current issues in politics. We are not experts, neither of us, and that's kind of the whole point. If we repeated our conversation today with the benefit of more time to think things through, it would be different, maybe in small ways and maybe in big ways. The message we're trying to convey is that it's okay not to know. It's okay to keep learning, and it's okay to change your mind. In fact, it's probably good. The fact that you believed something before doesn't mean that when presented with new information or upon reconsideration, you're still locked into that prior view. It's okay, in other words, to never close the inquiry. Welcome to another episode of the Neophytes. This is I don't know what number we're at in terms of Neophytes episodes, but this is the 50th episode of the Never Close the Inquiry podcast. We began, I think, right at the end of January or very beginning of February 2025, an interview with Professor Robert George of Princeton. And then there was an interview with Professor Marisa Baradaran of UC Irvine School of Law. And now it's mostly
downhill from there, baby.
Dudes hanging out. Let's begin this special.
The quality of show instead of going up is going to make this.
But hopefully, but after
quality of guests, I would say,
maybe that's what I meant.
Yeah. But after
people he surrounds himself with.
The number of advanced degrees or the impressiveness of certain advanced degrees. I don't know. We're doing
honestly.
Right.
He probably felt like a little scared and intimidated by those people, and he's like, "Who are people that I am absolutely not intimidated by?" He's like, yeah, Channing and Thomas. This is great. Intellectually, I'm leaps and bounds ahead of them.
I don't know if I go that far. I would say that I do not get nervous to talk to you guys, which is probably good. I definitely was a little apprehensive before interviewing Professor George and Professor Baradaran. And I definitely had to do a lot more prep before talking to them, like by reading their books.
You haven't read my book?
I have not read your...
I haven't been on your Reddit page.
Yeah, I don't know your Reddit
with your manifesto. I have not been on that yet.
Dang. Haven't read any of your manifestos. Let's start this special episode, though. I should say, even though this is not the 50th Neophytes episode, we are treating this as a landmark episode that everyone, except the people we know personally, should listen to. The people we know personally can listen, but I don't know. I'm still trying to decide.
This is an interesting sales pitch here.
Yeah. No, the thing is, we want everybody to listen to it, but we are kind of shy and self-conscious. So when people really close to us bring up specific parts of episodes, it's like, oh, gosh. So it's best. Like I think our very best case scenario is that this eventually reaches an audience, worldwide audience. AI translation would have to come into this a little bit, but reaches a worldwide audience of approximately 8 billion. But the people we know either don't listen or like do so secretly, and they're impressed with us, but they don't bring it up.
They have enough tact not to bring it up.
Exactly. Yeah. I think that's exactly right. So turning to our sponsors, I have actually Channing, you lead off, but I have a new sponsor tonight. Okay, go ahead, Channing.
Dr. Pepper Zero.
Okay. A true and original.
When you need a drink, don't reach for anything else.
I had
just let you down, but Dr. Pepper Zero never will. And I'm not going to bed for a long time.
Get those 41 milligrams of caffeine.
Dude, I am so sensitive to caffeine. It's not even funny.
Says as he takes a sip. Yeah, me too.
Worth it.
why I am not, partaking of that sponsor this evening. I am drinking a zero sugar mug floats vanilla howler.
I saw that at Walmart
Uh-huh.
just this last week, and I thought to myself, I wonder what that tastes like, but I'm not going to spend my money to test it. How is it?
Well,
Vanilla
I spent mine.
howler?
Yeah, honestly, pretty good. It's like it's kind of a souped up cream soda. So cream soda with a little more like
Cream.
leftover, yeah, the little cream, a little extra cream. Like like it's. I think the idea is that you've already eaten the ice cream out of the root beer float, and you're drinking the rest. And turns out I love all those things, and they managed to imitate that flavor with 0 calories by using potassium sorbate, aspartame, citric acid, malic acid, aspartame, potassium, sodium benzoate, sucralose,
Oh, so
calcium
this is how he's
disodium,
getting people we know not
EDTA.
to listen. I see. Well played, sir.
Anyway, yeah, delicious. So I'm gonna crack that
Well,
open.
since you mentioned mug, have you guys seen their their advertisements on social media?
No.
Because they're hilarious. They're like they basically are trying to like sell the idea that mug root beer goes really well with like all sorts of meat, and it's said by
Accurate.
like this. This sounds like a very like uneducated guy, like just talking about putting a weird meat with mug root beer. It's a very interesting ad
Like
strategy. So
braising it with mug root beer, or like
no,
pairing as you would a wine.
he's like, yeah. Sometimes I like to put some hot dogs in there and move them
Oh,
around, and it's disgusting,
okay.
but it's really funny.
Okay,
Just
I'll have to look it up. So our sponsors are for the evening are Dr. Pepper and Mug, and we will look up Mug's advertisements, which will be persuasive.
Yeah.
Buy more Mug. Okay, good. So I had sent around a text to you guys earlier and said, for our 50th episode, we should do something kind of akin to a State of the Union. Whenever I see State of the Union, I always like to say State of the Onion. For no other reason than I think it's kind of funny. But I think we might do something a little different as per our. Well, actually, let's do just a quick recitation of some stuff. But I think we're gonna do something a little different. Instead of talking about the country, I think we're gonna do something that's the only thing that can be truly unique to this podcast, unless there's a very niche podcast out there somewhere we don't know about, and that is talk about us. So again,
Ew.
unless there is a very niche podcast out there, this is
Am I
going to be
about
the
to get canceled?
well, maybe 50 and out. There we go. But the one thing, the truly unique thing we can bring to the table is our own perspective. And I think if you look at people generally across the country, it's everyone, they've got their political beliefs. People vote, they don't vote, they have some way they feel about things, might be more or less informed. They might be more or less aware of why they feel a certain way. But I think most people don't really stop to think. They don't spend that much time trying to figure out why they feel the way they do, why their natural biases are what they are. And I say maybe natural, maybe we can put in quotations, and use that kind of self-analysis to inform an analysis of, not exactly an analysis of other people, but I like to think that thinking hard about why we feel a certain way can make us slower to judgment as to why other people feel a certain way. Because I think there's had many conversations with people on both sides of the political aisle, the thrust of which was that people on the opposite side were not just wrong, but evil to some degree. They had a morally wrong, there's nothing ambiguous about it. They had a morally wrong view on things. And and the take seems to often be that it's not just morally wrong, but it's so obvious that they have to know it's morally wrong. And so they don't care about that morally wrong viewpoint because they're greedy or they're whatever other something bad. And that is not a view I generally agree with. And so I think be interesting. So of the 3 participants, none of us is an extremist, I don't think, unless I haven't read Mabes' latest manifesto, but I think it would be just kind of interesting to try and figure out where we're coming from and why, and if no one wants to listen to that, we apologize to our multiple listeners. Mabes, I want to start with you. Okay, Mabes, how would you, if we were looking at the political spectrum, which is more of a sphere or a circle than a line, and you had to just, you had to say, left, way left, center, right, way, whatever. How would you define yourself?
Probably pretty left.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't know
Are we
the
talking
words to
like
describe it.
socialism left, or are we talking?
Yeah, maybe. I think I'm left leaning, and I'm willing to change my opinion based on if someone has a good idea for something. So let's say I think that Medicare for all is what I want. And then Channing says, well, I have a better idea, and it's this. And I'm like, oh, wow, that's a really good idea. Then I could change my mind on that.
Okay.
But yeah, I don't feel like I'm super, like, my views have changed a lot, like, in the past year, and I don't see that changing, or I don't see that, like, I feel like my views will continue to change, as time
So
goes on.
that last bit's interesting. So over the past year, one thing that was different from prior years is that you've been hosting an award non-winning podcast.
True.
And
yeah.
Is there something about the last year in particular that has made your views?
Well, there's 2 things. This podcast has forced me to pay attention against my will. And then
do not apologize for that.
Yeah, I'm sure. And
What we can't see is the gun against his head outside the screen is why he's here, because he has no will in this.
And then also against my will, I had a surge when Trump was getting elected the first time, where I was like, oh, this is interesting. Like, politics is kind of interesting.
You got like super excited. You were like, I want to be involved with the
finally.
Yeah. Finally America's going to be great again.
And so you were talking about how you had a moment of like political awareness around Trump's first election.
Yeah. So I think Trump made me realize that politics were still a thing, and that I should have an opinion on things, because that's what adults do. And mostly I feel like my interactions with politics have been negative, and one of the big reasons I left social media besides Reddit is that I prefer to hate strangers rather than people that I know. So if someone on Reddit says something stupid, it's like, it's just like some random Redditor that is just dumb.
Right.
As opposed to like my aunt or uncle, that says something and I'm like, wow, that's really stupid. And politics has never been a big enough deal to me that I've wanted it to affect my real life relationships. And so I was like, okay, I'm just going to get off. And like, this is around the time where people were like, oh, you voted for Trump, like I have to defriend you. Like, and that just solidified me not wanting to be on social media. Like I had kind of been off for like 3 or 4 years off and on, but that was like the big, okay, I'm done.
Yeah.
Um, and then, uh, yeah, I've always been drawn to like kind of the negative side of things. And I feel like there's been a lot of negativity about the country and like the way things are going. And maybe Reddit has a part in that. I would say it probably definitely does. But I never went out searching for anything, but it was just like most of the stuff I was hearing was just negative. And that got me thinking like, maybe I should be thinking about this more and um having a more informed opinion so I can talk about these things with people that I care to talk to them about. And yeah, and I feel like my opinion can change at any time. I'm
Mm-hmm.
not I'm not going to be there's a few things that I'll probably hold on to, but like if I was pushed to like say what they would be, I don't really know. Um I just want people to be nice to each other and for everyone to get the respect that they deserve and the freedom to do what they want to do and not restrict other people's ability to do what they want to do.
Can
You
I
know,
make a statement and let me know if this is accurate? I think you are, and now you've heard all this before, but you are an abnormally empathetic person. You and always have been, above average caring and all that good stuff. And despite maybe this natural inclination to look for the negative, you are a kinder than average person. I don't think it's particularly close. And so, would it be fair? One, you don't have to tell me if that's fair. I think that's fair, and you don't need that is whether you think that's true or not. I think that is true. Um,
you're the arbiter
yeah, I'm
of
the arbiter of that.
reality.
What I
Yeah.
want you to tell me is whether. So basically, it seems like you have certain ends which are important to you, which are kind of this fair treatment of people, and I think like a high degree of personal liberty, but also a a relatively high uh, guarantee or surety, however you want to define it, of some like quality of life type thing, and that uh, you are persuadable on the means to those ends.
Yeah,
Would that be fair?
and maybe I don't know, but like yeah, I would say that's mostly fair. It's just I I don't feel particularly tied to any party.
Right.
Um I just I want things to I want to feel like things are working, and
Yeah.
I get really frustrated about most of the things in politics where it feels like things just aren't working very well. Um
What?
and and particularly I think we should be spending our money a lot better.
Hmm. Yes. Okay. So I was to add to the prior statement. You can tell me if this part's fair too. Like a lot of democratic socialists, Bernie Sanders, Zoran Mamdani, uh, AOC, they talk a lot about things. I think that sound nice. That they talk a lot about. That they want healthcare, Medicare for all. They want affordable health care or provided health care, good health care for everybody. They want, uh, you know, again, we can critique the wisdom of the policies, but rent control and a lot of things like that come out of a good place where they're trying to keep housing affordable and yada, yada, yada. And so, is that where the appeal of some of the democratic socialism comes from, or is it something else?
Um Yeah, mostly like you and I have talked about this before. Mostly, I hear things that they say, and it's like, yeah, that sounds good, um,
Right. Yeah.
and that of course makes me feel really nervous because things have sounded really good to a lot of people for a lot of different reasons.
Mm.
Um, and so I don't know how they would accomplish the things that I would like to see. Like necessarily, I don't know exactly what they would do. It's easy to say, like, have the rich pay their fair share or whatever, like
Right.
tax the rich, whatever. I don't know how that works in America. Like, I I have, I don't know how it's all going to work, but from the things that they say, um, I find that I align with most of it. There are some things I roll my eyes at, but um, yeah,
Do you have any so for a lot of people they hear the word socialism and they have a strong allergy to it. Uh, why do you not have such an allergy?
because I was born a Mormon, and we're told to what
No,
is the
Channing's raising his
word?
eyebrows, but this is really interesting.
What's the consecrate?
Law
Right,
Yeah.
of consecration.
law of consecration. If we're all God's children, okay,
Hmm.
if we're all human beings, we should share with one another for the greater good. And if you have a bum that can't work, then you help him work. And if he doesn't want to work, well, I guess that's his choice. Um, do you have like a public flogging for the bum? I don't know. They didn't write that into Mormon law that I'm aware of, but uh, I mean, honestly, I've never really cared. Like
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
socialism, no, they're just words.
No,
I don't really
that's
care.
that last point you made though is really interesting, and I'd like to hear Channing's thought on it because the one kind of joint thing that we can all bring to the table is a uh, at least part life membership in the LDS Church and great familiarity with its tenets, culture, all that. I'm the only. All three of us served missions. Uh, both of you
Did
have
you
lived.
did you almost say that you were the one that served a mission?
No,
No,
Oh,
no. I
he
was
was
going
going
to
to
say
say he's the only one that served a foreign mission because
no. I was
ah,
going to
puts him in
say
a
I was
different
the only
class.
one that I was going to say I was the only one I think that lived outside Utah for a significant period. But then I remembered missions which is it kind of a different context of living outside of Utah.
yeah.
So I went and said the missions thing first. But all three of us served missions, and both of you have lived in Utah for your whole lives outside your missions. I know that's true. Maybe it's Channing. I think, yeah, okay.
It's also
And
factual.
um, and so surrounded by a lot of other church members, very familiar with all that. The majority of LDS church members are conservative. There are differences between LDS conservatism and evangelical conservatism, I think, but Catholic conservatism and uh, irreligious conservatism and all these other things. They're different flavors, but there are also, as there are, uh, many Christian leftists, there are a there's a decent chunk within the LDS church and like the early church straight up tried theocratic communism. Like there is a lot of you can find plenty of doctrinal support to be conservative. You can find an awful lot to be very liberal. They're just for whatever reason culturally that has not been the way the church has gone, especially over the last let's call it 65 years. Anyway, Channing, do you have any we can turn to Channing to start to get because you come
I
out of
mean, it's
this
okay.
a different place. You
Yeah.
are of the three of us the most historically conservative,
Yeah.
and you do come out of like we all come from different families
Yeah.
and everything, but we come out of a similar cultural background.
Sure.
And so
Yeah.
how did you end up with more conservative views?
Where did your parents do right and Hagen's and I's failed? Basically, is what he's asking.
Well, clearly your parents just didn't love you enough to tell you the hard
Yeah.
truths of life.
Facts.
I think
No,
something like
Thanks
that.
for bringing that up. Yeah.
no. Um, I'm not 100% sure to say of how I ended up. I definitely come from a family who is more conservative by than probably both your families. I'd hazard to guess. So obviously a little
Hazard
bit of fun.
correctly. Yeah.
I hazard correctly.
Yeah.
So I have that background. Uh, and also I've thought a lot about things. I know nothing, but like I've thought about stuff a lot, and I feel like as coming from my background of religion and from my family and from obviously experiences, I definitely find myself gravitating towards some more conservative um, policies and other stuff like that. Um, I I myself do not um, really associate myself like with a party. I don't feel a loyalty to a party. So I end up most of the time kind of I just say, well, I think this, but so and so has the closest aligned, so that's kind of where I'm at. Unfortunately, is it's the best of my options, and so I have kind of a pessimistic view of politics,
Yeah.
just because I know people are trying. I like to give people the benefit of the doubt and think that everyone is trying their best. They don't wake up every morning and be like, I choose evil. They that people truly think they're the heroes of their stories quite often, right? So I like to give people the benefit of the doubt that way. But I get frustrated when people take such a hard stance of ideas and things and don't appear to be open to discussion, open to trying to like see other points, hear things, try to make their ideas better. I get it that if at the end of the day you're like, oh, I hear you, I hear what you're saying, I still think this path is better. I totally get that. I that's how life is, and you should be able to do that. But yeah, I just have a hard time with those things. But more often than not, a lot of my policies line up a little bit more with things on the right.
Can I
But
ask you?
yeah,
So, question. Can you provide a specific example of a policy on which you line it more to the right, where you think that came out of like the family or religious background? It can't be abortion. A different one.
oh, that was such
That's
an
because
easy
that's
one.
the freebie. That's
That was
and
such an
it's a very
easy one.
yeah, it's a very difficult like subject, but kind of a freebie for our purposes. Something other than that.
Hmm. You know, I have a very conflicted feelings about a lot of social programs. Um, in terms of there's just so many of them out there, and I have a hard time with some of them, and other ones I fully back and kind of a thing. But I often tend towards more of a conservative view on be more accountable with the programs rather than like, hey, there's a need, let's try to fill the need, and we know we're going to overshoot it and we're going to have problems and we're going to have all these other things, but we're filling the need. When I feel like often it is a better use of funds and able to help more people by being much more judicious and more planning in trying to help with some of these social things and filling it slowly to kind of not
Can
have
I
it
ask
hanging around
you?
other people's stuff.
I'm going to
Mhm.
ask you a couple of questions because I think there's a lot in there that people would generally support. Like I think
Yeah, absolutely.
if there's one thing on which I assume the vast majority of people would agree wholeheartedly, it's like a dollar spent well is better than a dollar wasted.
Absolutely.
And they would, and I think people would generally prefer that their tax dollars. I think Mabes alluded earlier to the idea that the government spends a lot of money, but not on stuff you would like them to spend money on. Everyone wants the government to spend money judiciously and in value maximizing ways.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's take a quick step back. So the church, getting back to the church has a rather robust welfare program.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It is administered at the ward level, like the neighborhood level, congregation level, and there is, I think, within it a fairly high degree of accountability. See, it's usually like for some people they just straight up aren't able to do anything. They need some kind of help, and so they might just get that help. But other people might need temporary help or might be physically able and to get back to work or whatever the case may be, and so you might see a more temporary arrangement. One of the massive kind of hurdles that anyone has to cross in something like this is administration. And so with the church's welfare program, let's just assume for the sake of argument, the church's welfare program is not perfect in whatever, not making that claim or arguing about that. That's not really the point. The point is that it is administered locally, and each person in charge of the program has a relatively small, there's a relatively small group they're overseeing, so to speak. With the government, if the government is going to administer welfare in a semi-similar way, where each person actually handing it out has a personal relationship with each recipient. Probably a couple of ways to do that. Well, no, it's really one way. The government, and when I say a couple ways, it's that one path, it's all federal, and another path, it's federal, state, local, down to super local. But the government needs to employ a lot more people. Right? Is there a different way to do it?
No, you're right. But it's kind of but that's the argument too. Okay. Anyways, but yeah. So one of my stances is definitely. So I think relying on the government for social programs is a flawed concept. I definitely, and this largely comes from my, like, obviously my church background,
Sure.
but like I see a lot more effective things when you have these, programs and stuff that are set up to be local, like you were talking about, right? All those benefits. I think that one of the reasons those things are also fairly effective is because they are largely a volunteer program, right? So you have people volunteering, they're passionate about it, they care about others. And I don't I don't like the idea of paying and increasing the government and people to try to increase like the closer down things. So that's where that comes into play. And so that's where we're on different sides of it, where people are like, well, if you spend the more money, you
Mm-hmm.
can be able to have better oversight, right? So you can be able to be more judicious about it and all those kind of things. And then you have the other side where I would typically fall more on, which is like, I don't think I'm not a fan of that idea of increasing the spending on that. I think helping your neighbor should be more of a local, and people should do it and be a part of that, not a government
So,
thing.
okay. So let me pick at that. These are some obvious picks
It's
and
okay.
pokes.
Yeah.
Um,
No. Understood.
Wait, why weren't you picking at me? This is racist. Anyways, go on.
we didn't get into the specifics with you. We'll get back to you. Sorry, and you can pick and poke as well. We haven't even gotten to me. This is great. We're gonna end, and I'm not gonna. This is perfect. Anyway,
We'll just have one episode for you.
I can. Yeah. Okay. I have the program. I can just do a solo episode where I ask myself questions. the I'm not doing that. Oh gosh, dang it! Did I forget my question? Oh yeah. Okay, so this not all neighborhoods are created equal, right?
Correct.
A lot of neighborhoods, we all happen to live in neighborhoods which are, looking at the nation, relatively affluent.
Mhm.
Certainly, the neighborhoods where we grew up, I think, and very, very affluent. If we're looking at the national scene, and so people have a lot of resources to help one another. And there is really, I would say, in the neighborhood where we grew up, the neighborhood uh, where we live now, there is and when I say we, there, I'm meaning me.
You,
Yeah, sorry,
you, where
where I
you
live now,
live.
there is it is remarkable the degree to which people help each other, their generosity with money when necessary, but especially with time. All these things, they're really an incredible amount of support. It's an awesome place to live, but not everyone is so lucky. And so in your scenario, where we have less help coming from the government, and a lot
Mhm.
more is up to people to help their neighbor. Uh, are we Do we run into an issue in that, like, for me, that frankly, that sounds totally fine, but for someone who's living in
Yep.
podunk Ozarks, maybe not quite as effective? What would your response be on that?
So I think my first response is to say that I don't have all the answers. Number one, and I'm not advocating for just like taking all the social things away immediately or anything like that, because there are very real people that are dependent and need things, and we've created anyways. But
Yeah.
I would say that I agree with you that there are a lot of challenges with switching to it and
Yeah.
changing it, and it would require a very different um, culture of people, to kind of
Hmm.
believe into it, to get on, to get on board. Um, I also just think this is a large decrease in people having communities that extend beyond the government, because I think that's one of my things that I have a qualm with, is the more reliance on the government, the less you rely kind of on like the local people to do it. And I know that's a very big generality, like that doesn't necessarily mean that's for everyone, but like I don't know, I think it can be a self I don't know. And people are, especially as time goes on, people are very reluctant to be a part of organizations. People are becoming less and less likely to be a part of a religion. I don't know. I just feel like people are really pulling away from a lot of those ways that you can support each other locally, and are turning to the one universal that enforces law with guns, which is the government,
Yeah.
and turn to them and say, let's solve these problems, when I think there's a better road of trying to go a different direction. But that doesn't mean I have the answers to do it. I'm just saying, when
You know
I'm
what?
picking policies where I'm like,
Yeah.
where's the money going?
This is okay. A couple of really interesting things. There's a lot that you just said that I agree with wholeheartedly, and I think, or I think that is uncontroverted by the data. I think there is no real question that membership in various community organizations has decreased over time dramatically. That does include religions, but it includes far, far more than just that. People are less participatory in community organizations. All three of us did Boy Scouts. Boy Scouts has taken some hits, and that's also to say, you have to say, well, none of this happens in a vacuum. It's not like all the organizations were doing absolutely fantastic.
Right.
Everyone was loving it. Everyone loved everything they heard when they attended, services or whatever, and then over time, just people are like, you know what, pass. No, it was like a number of, there were bad things that happened. There were mediocre things that happened. There were dogmas that people began to, that people liked less over time. That there have been a number of reasons for people to part from community organizations, but they have parted. At the same time, another big, catalyst for all this is the growth of the internet. so people are able to be together online. Ironically, we are recording this remotely in our respective homes, but you can be together online, or you can be an anonymous person behind a keyboard, and you can be in a quote unquote community while not getting nearly the same sort of social benefit that you would get from actually being in a room with people. And there are there's so many advantages to the internet and the way it connects us. There are some really, really cool advantages. And I think that's especially true for people who historically and currently are at society's margins, where there just are not a lot of people like them. And so to find people like them, they go to the internet. Like that's a real thing. It is not the quote unquote conventional path is not for everybody. And I think the internet has, if you just turned the internet off and you got rid of all of it and you got rid of social media, I think there would be major, major upsides, and they might outweigh the downsides, but there would be material downsides. And some people, I think, would very fairly be devastated. But it's to get this back to the political side of this one thing. It is interesting because I think virtually everyone would agree the more the government can get out of it, the better. Like I think even people who are for big government programs would, all things being equal, say if local communities can handle this and provide the same benefit, and they're not leaving people behind, which is often, people are providing the safety net with the same efficacy, then bully for them. That's awesome. And I think I've heard this both from you and from other conservative friends who say there's a bit of a you have to take a leap of faith thing, where it's like, when you put these welfare programs into place, part of why government benefits never really go away is that people start to rely on them, and then they form their lives around them, and then now you can't take them away because you're taking away the keystone of an arch or whatever. And so you kind of, like if you took stuff away, you really would, you'd see a lot of complaining. Let's put it that way. You'd see a lot of collapsed bridges that over time would be rebuilt. But when you see benefits taken away, or kind of when you see government policies get more draconian, the government gets away with it when the people most affected by the switch do not have a real voice. So I would say this is just kind of an interesting, this is a timely example, but obviously this Trump administration enforces immigration laws very differently from how the Biden administration did. And there have been, a lot of people have been sent away from the country, or a lot of people have left of their own volition. And there has been a significant outcry, but it could have been much more significant, I think. And it has been at times, when ICE has killed people, which they have done a few times. But a lot of the people that are most affected by that, yeah, and again, I'm not saying they have a legal right to be in the country. That's not what this is about. But the people who are most affected by it do not have the same voice as like a very large voting block in some important swing state, where it's like we're not taking away this particular program that benefits Michiganders or whatever because we really want to win Michigan. It's interesting. Either of you agree with that? Nah, kind of shrug.
I think the biggest difference between Channing and I on this issue would be that I think he thinks that humans are going to be good people.
Oh.
And I would like to believe that, but I don't think I do.
So that's the same argument on the flip side, is that you say that, and I think you hope the government is going to be good, and you build reliance on it, and people are not they're going to let you down. So like I feel like it's a two-sided issue. Like the argument works both ways. See?
I think it's policy based. Like I think one thing that I think we're talking past each other on this, is that I heard you say, like, I don't want to spend more. And I think my point is we don't have to spend more, and maybe we can even spend less if we just spend the money where it should go. Should, I love that word. But like if we were to spend, just a tiny bit less on the military, just like just a tiny itsy bitsy, and
How about we spend 1.5 times as much as we're currently spending? No,
yeah,
I'm
that's not.
actually an advocate that we spend more, but that's okay.
I actually also do not have an issue with a high military budget. Weirdly, but yeah, sorry, go on, Maves.
yeah, I don't have an issue with the high military budget, but I think we could spare
No.
a few $1,000,000 here or there for
Yeah, there.
people that are struggling.
I think it's fair to say there is a probably in the gajillions of dollars that the military spends. Let's say it's not done with 100% efficiency.
It
or
is
like
not done with 100% efficiency.
or
at
like
all.
even
No, they're again, it's the government. You're not barking up the tree of like I think they're a great machine.
yeah, so I think while so like the reason that I say things like maybe we need some reform to the Supreme Court in some way is because it seems like for changes that I think for changes in general to be made, it feels like the process that we have now, it doesn't work unless there's like a super majority, and like the Republicans this go around, they have gotten some things through, but I feel like a lot of things have been like executive orders still. And I I feel like there needs to be changes so we can make like real policies that would help things
So,
work better. But
We've had this
it's
conversation before
So
though
what-
about like
Wait.
never mind.
Well, no, I was going to say that's not the Supreme Court you're talking about, really. That's the
No.
filibuster.
Yeah, he's talking. Yeah, it's not the Supreme Court's fault for saying make the laws
Well,
right.
well, I think that blanket statement I'm not going to accept all the way because the
They're not
Supreme.
perfect.
No, and
They also have they have their politics because they have their views, which typically fall in line with different sides.
yeah, the Supreme Court's complicated. I'm a big proponent of the Supreme Court generally.
me too.
Yeah, no, I know, but they are, and I think maybe the purest form of not political debate, but the purest form of debate we really have still is probably in the Supreme Court. Was whenever you see, like the tariff decision, I think 7 justices wrote opinions, and it's not like a political a debate during a campaign where you have few people and they each take turns and they're each just like trying to get their jab in and their good line for Instagram, and then you're done and you move on. It's like these opinions that come out are the result of months of substantive debate among highly intelligent people with their own motivations and biases, but highly intelligent, considered people, and each of them has a chance to respond to each other. There's no like last word. So you'll read, a Roberts majority opinion, and then a Gorsuch concurrence will be responsive to that and to a Thomas dissent or whatever. And I really like that. But I think the Supreme Court has made decisions that there is a strong argument to be said that it's Congress's fault. Congress has to do this stuff, and whatever the Supreme Court decides can technically be changed by Congress. Some stuff would require amending the Constitution, and which there is a very high bar that we have not come all that close to crossing in some time. But yeah, so there are some decisions that I think, even if you can make the argument they were correctly decided, I kind of wish they'd been incorrectly decided.
Well,
like
so
Citizens United, for example.
let me ask a question then. So maybe I don't understand. Well, I
Yeah.
know I don't understand. So let's say that we did want Medicare for all.
Sure.
Wouldn't that have to go through the Supreme Court at some point?
No,
It
not necessarily.
would. Someone would definitely
Wait,
sue eventually.
No, it would not
but
have to.
It doesn't
It would not
have
have
go
to.
through it.
Yeah,
No.
see, like, I mean, but it would.
It
Because
would
someone
get
would sue.
there. It
Yeah.
would get there because someone would challenge it. The Supreme Court doesn't do anything in and of itself. They only take stuff that comes to them.
And
But,
that's
like, is
because
it
it's
fair to
gone
say-
through multiple courts.
Almost
like,
always.
Is
Almost
it
always,
fair to
definitely.
say that like everything big and monumental that's been changed has kind of gone through the Supreme Court at some point?
Yeah,
I mean,
Depends
as a
on how it
blanket
was
statement,
passed.
that's
that's
kind of
my
fair.
idea. That's my idea. Like, so to me, it's like, let's say you don't think the Supreme Court is 100% evenly spread. We'll say, with
Okay.
ideas or whatever.
It's never evenly spread, but yeah, sure.
Right. So if I've just really disliked the way that you can appoint that the sitting president can appoint somebody. Like, I think that's a really stupid.
Who do you
way to
think
do
should
it.
be able to appoint somebody?
I don't know, like a popular vote. I don't know.
Oh, he just said
No.
vote.
You want to vote
don't
on
wanna
judges?
vote. You do not want to vote on judges, sir. Get out of here.
So what's the difference between someone just choosing somebody?
So keep in mind the president nominates, and then the
Right.
Senate has to confirm.
And then whoever has the most in the Senate just
Sure.
decides.
Yeah.
Because the
It's
point is,
over
you're
60
trying to
votes.
pull them. You're trying to technically pull them away as much as possible from the politics, which again, not doable because it is all
Yeah.
politics. But you're trying to pull it away because what you don't want people campaigning to be a supreme judge,
Right.
like that, because that creates a whole other problem. Because now you have people beholden to like whatever the popular thing is, not what the laws are. It's whatever's going to keep them elected or get them elected. It's not about like, because
We have that problem at the state level, incidentally.
yeah, we do have
do
that problem at
elections
state
for
level.
some
So like
judges,
they're, and that's why I have a little bit of faith, a little more faith in the Supreme Court, because I used to not, but then I started learning more about it and getting involved and trying to learn more because I really did feel disappointed in the Supreme Court. But like as I've learned more, I do feel like they try, as they understand it, they fight for what the laws are, and they're not politicking as much. Don't be wrong, there are always politics involved of them to get there or whatever, but like to a degree, like these people are trying to keep the laws and what they see the laws interpreted.
Yeah.
And they're flawed human beings, which
Some of them more flawed than others,
I don't know. I think the true frustration is Congress and those things that
Yeah.
they're actual policymakers, and it's also the people. Like that's the other frustrating thing is that like it's people's fault that like we are also in this situation because people are so easily, not easily, but like we can buy into people that we don't know anything about, and then all of a sudden now we have this person that's not doing a good job.
Well, it's something I've written about. We've talked about it before. The primary process
Yeah, it's broken.
rewards people who are to the edges of their own party.
Yes.
That is less, and it's a problem everywhere. It's less of a problem where you have open primaries. It's more of a problem where you have closed primaries, and it's really a problem where you have like a closed caucus, which is incidentally what we have on the Republican side in Utah. And
Yes.
you can get,
Which is disappointing. in my opinion.
and it's funny because the party institution will always argue. They make principled sounding arguments, and it's funny because Utah, again, conservative state, but on the whole, many respects more moderate Republican than like hard right, and there are almost always harder right people who come out of the caucuses and yeah. And then people like Mitt Romney and Spencer Cox our current governor, have done extremely well in statewide elections, but get smoked at the caucus. Like they just get pummeled. And so Utah had a Senator Bob Bennett who was very well respected both in the Republican Party and in the and across the aisle. Just a good guy and generally considered an effective senator, who's a very respectable Republican, definitely, but a little more moderate. And then he got taken out during the Tea Party revolution. He got smoked at the caucus. He wasn't one of the top two, and so now we have Mike Lee, who. Let me put it this way. So after we did our Lindsey Graham episode, I wrote show notes for it, just like a tiny little, basically a 2-paragraph kind of quasi obituary that went out with the episode. Like the little summary underneath it. And I had a friend, a brilliant friend, whom I respect very much, text me and say it was a nice obituary. It was kind of respectful and even handed, and even though I did not agree with the late senator on everything, I do not think I would write something as magnanimous about Mike Lee. Put it that way. Anyway, so the point being, primary process rewards people who are toward the edges, who are often promising not just the moon, but that they won't compromise with the people on the other side who want their own moon. And then we end up in a general election where you just have people, one person from one party who's, well to the edge, another person from the other party who's well to the edge. And then you fill Congress mostly with people who are kind of to the edges. And it does
So
not.
they can't work together.
It makes it very hard for them to work together. Not just because,
and that's why you're saying, and you're right, you kind of have to have super majorities, because you truly kind of have to get to a point where you have enough people that are on your side to be able to pass anything, because neither side's really working towards a goal.
And both parties, so 3 thoughts really quick, 2 thoughts. So Obamacare first passed because Democrats, for a matter of months in 2009, had a 60-vote majority. And so they could get the whole thing through past the filibuster. The second thing was, right now, the parties have entered into a state where they think, so we are going to, for the first couple of years of a presidency, we're going to have we're going to have the White House, and we're going to have the Senate, and we're going to have the House. We're going to have bare majorities in the Senate and the House. But we can, by using reconciliation, there's still a lot we can do. That's a complicated process. Basic gist is that there are some things you can do with 51 votes, some things for which you need 60. Basically, there are some things that the other side can't filibuster. And there are real limitations on what you can do, but you can do a lot and spend a lot of money. And for a few administrations now in a row, they've had this idea where it's like, okay, we are going to pass something. We're going to pass the biggest thing we possibly can. We're going to spend a ton of money. That was Biden. He had the Build Back Better, and I forget what else. But it's like we're going to do this for the American people. We're going to do it despite not having a lick of support from our colleagues across the aisle. And then the American people are going to like what we pass enough that it sticks. And not just that it sticks, but that we stick and we get reelected. And that, I think, has been right to some extent. It's like some stuff that rolls out quickly. It's like people love money. People love it when money is spent on them. They really do. Like, you can, that's part of why welfare and various social programs are very difficult to downsize and take away, is the people that receive them tend to like it. Yeah.
And
they're like,
and
this
vote
is
for people
who
that aren't going to take it
promise
away.
they won't take that away. Which is why even on the conservative side of things, you can no longer say that you want to, reform Social Security or whatever. That you kind of can't touch Social Security, which until Trump was
one of the few things that people are like starting to like mutually agree on, because they're all kind of aging into it, and they're like,
Social Security is pretty great.
We can't get rid of this.
No, you're right. And anyway, so some of the stuff passes, people like it, but it never rolls out as quickly as people think, as the people passing it hope, and they never get credit for it. And so what has been happening is the government comes in, passes some big stuff, gets smoked in the midterms, and then the new government comes in another 2 years and reverses a bunch of stuff and then adds some more new stuff, and we repeat the process.
But I also think this is why you also get these lawsuits, and you feel like the Supreme Court is the big bad wolf kind of
Getting
hiding
back to
in there,
Mabes' original
is
point.
because you get this passed through, and basically, I think also what people try to do is they try to get it passed through, and they say, hey, whatever survives will count as a win. Right? They're like,
Yep.
whatever we can get of this to survive, because we know it's going to get shot to crap. Like, we know that. We pushed it through at a 51.
Yeah, it's going to
vote.
get challenged.
Like, we know
It's going to be
get torn
challenged
up.
by 16 states and a bunch
Yeah.
of private parties immediately.
And so I think that's the other sad part about the process, which I agree with you, Thomas, 100%. Like, it is, I have felt a desperation and a sadness about the process as well, just because, like, if people were working together on it, and you could see that, like, from your representatives, like, we're working together, people are a lot less likely to sue, and challenge it. And also, guess what? The Supreme Court is human. They're human. They can tell public kind of, fervor and stuff. Not saying that changes their mind per se, but to a degree, you'd be amazed that probably the decisions that might have been a little different from the Supreme Court, if it felt like this was like a truly American, like the people are pushing this way. I think you'd be surprised at some of the kind of feel some of these people would kind of get and kind of shift, as if this was like a mutual thing, and you've got just like a really small minority group suing this thing, and they're pushing it up. I don't know. That's just a personal feel of mine. I feel like because we push through things and we know it's going to get shot to crap, and we force, the Supreme Court to get involved a lot, that just paints them in a bad picture. It paints a bad picture for our whole system. But I'm not saying I have the answers. I just do feel like I have a new motivation to try to like be more involved in like primaries and stuff like that, and caucuses and things, to be there, even though I hate it. I hate it. I truly despise it. Because unfortunately, most of the people there are not people I really like. And if I see you somewhere and for some reason you listen to this pod and you see me at it and you're like, you know what he said about me?
You're one of the ones he
likes.
likes.
I wasn't talking about you. You're a good person. But we have to be the change we want to see, like you can't just be a couch warrior and like complain about it. Like, if you want primaries to be less polarized, get you and your buddies that are less polarized, or people to like go and represent and try to get more, what in your opinion is more reasonable, level-headed, willing to work together representatives.
Let's we just got a couple more minutes, and I want to go back to I think kind of the discussion we were having with Mabes at the start, where, because I think this is true of all of us. It's that there are certain ends we're looking for, that we want. Like, let's go back to the Medicare for all. It's like, it's not about Medicare for all. It's about affordable or fully affordable health care for everybody. And so if someone came to you and said, okay, here's how Medicare for all would work, and then here's this other brilliant idea. For the record, I do not know what other brilliant idea there is. And I think there is an appreciable reason why so many other countries at least have a two-tiered healthcare system, where there is some universal coverage, something. Anyway, but the desired end is not the policy. The desired end is what the policy is meant to get you to. And so if someone comes along and gives you a more persuasive proposal that will get you to that desired end, then be willing to entertain it. And
I just don't have, so like, obviously I have no idea what I'm talking about.
Like, okay,
unites us all.
It like the all I can say is that since starting to pay attention to politics, all I feel is negativity towards it. And
Sign of the system working.
so either that means my sources really suck,
Yeah.
or
I
there
mean,
are
Reddit's not the
things
best.
that have been problems for a long time that could use some change.
Mhm.
And so for me, I'm trying to think like, it'd be great to get, the get money out of politics, in quotes,
Yeah, that's gonna be tough.
like how do you do that in any real world? But like maybe we could limit corporations and foreign countries getting involved. That might be a good start. But I
Foreign
there's just
countries,
I
yes,
don't think anyone disagrees with you to a degree, like
that's
largely, but I
yeah.
think that it's the practicality that everyone's going to argue
right,
about.
because
Well,
you need money to run elections,
well,
and
not just
you're not
that.
all going to be like you're not going to be Graham Plattner and get billions of dollars, to run your campaigns
I Well, I was
from
going to
the
say,
Mainers.
Citizens United does make it hard. Foreign nations, there's a lot we can do to keep them out. In terms like legally, they can still use
Yeah.
subterfuge to get their way in, but they don't have a First Amendment right to spend $50 billion on
Yeah,
Bernie Sanders or
and
whatever.
like I have,
Which, by the
I
way,
just
was the
have
argument of
things.
getting TikTok banned.
Yeah, right, right.
Yeah, like I just have things that are in my head that really bother me, like, and maybe this is definitely a subject for another time that we meet together, because like I don't understand the real benefit of having like lifelong terms for things like the Supreme Court, and also like just the
Mm,
ability to stay in office forever.
mm.
Um like I think there are some like common sense things that could change. And I'm not saying that we should have like a Britain UK thing where like the prime minister gets 45 minutes and then someone gets
They've
mad
had
and they kick
7
him
and
out.
10 years. Yeah.
Yeah. Like I'm not advocating for that in any way, but you know, maybe they should have like a president gets to choose one new one. Like I don't know, like there could be some kind of switching going on. So we just don't have
Dude, we could
uh
totally get in on the argument of should we change it so the presidents
yeah,
have a 6-year term, but only one, no reelection? That'd
yeah.
be an interesting conversation
And
to
it
have.
and I wonder if it's like if it's bigger than just like a conservative type of a feel where it's like, well, we want stability, so having people there longer and therefore getting more experience and having to look at all the issues day in and day out. I see the value in that.
Mhm.
But if I actually think that change needs to be made on a wide level, then um I don't know. Like but I'm just trying to express that like there are things that don't feel good, and I want them to feel good. And I don't know how to get there. Uh, maybe I can just like practice mindfulness and just feel better about the world and myself.
Mm.
And then maybe if everyone does that, we'll all feel good. But uh,
It's
I don't see that working for
it's
me.
it's funny because I have a lot of feelings too about like like I see we kind of it's not we share kind of the same end goal, but we also see it like the means very differently, right? Like healthcare for everyone, right? In the more conservative side, right, it's that healthcare is affordable so that even if you make low amounts of money, you can still pay for it, right? And that's kind of like that's what anyways, it doesn't matter. I'm just saying as an example of like, means like someone's like, we'll just make it,
Yeah, yeah.
this. Well, why don't you just make it so that it's just so affordable that people can pay for it? Anyways, it's the whole thing. But what I was saying is and I think I find myself, and this is the only piece I get, because I do have really strong feelings about things I do not understand. Like it's incredible that I can have such strong personal feelings about things that like I'm just like I can almost get worked up about it. And the thing that calms me down a little bit and I take a breath is when someone might have a diametrically off different opinion than I have. And at the end of the day, I can ask, you know what? How would you get there? And I can listen to them, and I can be at peace knowing that their plan is they're working with very little information as well. Their plan is very flawed. And at the end of the day, if they asked me how I was going to get to my thing, I would have to present to them the same, obviously not the same path, but a flawed, not very intelligent thing. And we both can, feel that way.
Well,
it's okay.
I think, yeah. So you're getting to something important here, and let's end with this. The function of two different parties is not just to have two different options. It is to have a robust debate where you take multiple ideas and you produce a new agreed upon idea that is better for having had input from both sides. Like, the idea isn't just for us to, for me and Mabes to spout liberal nonsense and for you to counter with conservative nonsense. It is for us to share, what you said about us having little information. That's exactly right. Each of us only has what we personally have perceived, and maybe, even experts, you can spend your life studying one thing, and so someone will know a ton about this one thing, but then maybe not very much about other stuff, or they might have a very narrow view of that one thing and not be open to new ideas or whatever. But we each bring something to the table. And if we can all bring something to the table and add it to the collective table, then there's more stuff on the table. It's not like when you bring something to the table, you have to knock everything currently on the table off of it. There can just be, they're using kind of a funny metaphor, but point being, the real purpose of debate, I think, the real function of debate outside the legal context in the court or whatever, you shouldn't be debating in politics just to win. You should be debating to get to better ideas. Take your ideas and by sharpening the sword and maybe exposing them to these contrary stimuli that will just show you that you're so right. But keep looking, because there are going to be other people with other ideas that are going to add something to what you have. And so let's end with that. The lesson from the 50th episode of the Never Close the Inquiry podcast is that debate is competitive, but this is America. This is a nation that believes in competition. We believe in competition not because we're looking just for winners and losers. We believe in growth and addition through competition. And yes.
In the name of Jesus Christ, amen.
There you go. Our benediction. Or, yes, our benediction. Thank you. All right. And that was the interview. Thank you very much for listening. If you wouldn't mind, please do leave a review for the podcast. I believe those are important. And subscribe to the newsletter, which will be linked in the show notes, or can be found at neverclosetheinquiry.substack.com. Thanks.